Alright, we're here with another video on nature and extent of crime, straight after the introduction, right? So, real quick, a little crime analysis in Canada from 2024-2025. We saw 550,000 violent crimes, with the top violent crimes being assault of the first degree, uttering threats, and assault of the second degree. With regards to our total property crimes, we had 1.4 million, with the top property crimes being theft, under 5,000, mischief, fraud, and breaking and entering. Okay. So, uh, another stat. In 2014, there were 1.8 million crimes reported to police. We used the Crime Severity Index to measure crime seriousness, and that showed a decline. In 2014, 21% of crimes were violent, and 79% were nonviolent. Let's look at these guys. So, violent crimes, we had 370,000 violent criminal code violations. That is a 15,000 crime case decrease, driven by that decrease was driven by a 22% reduction in level 3 sexual assault, a 14% reduction in phone level harassment and level 2 sexual assault, an 11% reduction in robbery, and a 10% reduction in harassment. Some crimes increase, such as extortion, by 16%, 6% in sexual violations against children, and 4% in abductions. Property crimes, right? These are crimes committed to acquire property without violence or threat of violence. 88% of property crimes include theft under 5K, mischief, break and entering, and fraud. Some other criminal code violations are prostitution, right? This declined by 48% due to legal reforms. Again, prostitution was essentially withdrawn with regards to the selling of the sex by the woman in particular in 2012, as we looked at earlier. Counterfeiting decreased by 10%, terrorism offenses increased by 39%, and child pornography cases rose by 41%. So with regards to other criminal code violations, child porn was the most. Terrorism, right? Let's define the crime of terrorism. So Section 83.01 of the Criminal Code defines terrorism as acts committed for political, religious, or ideological purposes to intimidate the public or force government action. This includes things like violence leading to death or bodily harm, encouraging public safety, property damage, disrupting essential service, whatever it may be. A lot of people said that this net is too wide, right? Let's look at some more things. This is really going to be the meat and potatoes of this section. These next two areas that we're looking at. So, crime statistics and reporting issues, right? We have police reports, which are the main source of reporting. We have self-reports. These are individuals reporting their own criminal activity. We see some of this. And we have victimization surveys. These are crimes captured through surveys that are not reported to the police, right? None of these are deemed entirely accurate. Sorry, I'm a little sick. But it's the best that we got. And we're going to talk about victimization data and victimization surveys a little bit later. But let's look at something. So, the Canadian Uniform Crime Reporting System, or CUCRS, it was launched in 1981 to standardize crime reporting. It allowed for data on, victim details, right? Like, CUCSR 1 was launched in 1961 to standardize crime reporting. CUCSR 2 was launched in 1988 to collect incident-based reporting, not just summaries and standardizations, right? CUCSR 2 allowed for data on, victim details, offender details, the circumstance of the crime, as opposed to just kind of like summary details, right? The criticism of both of these, but more importantly CUCSR2, is that some crimes go underreported, right? There's an underreporting issue. There's crime weighting issues, right? A drop in some crimes may be offset by increases in others, which could skew statistics. And a recording issue, right? For nonviolent crimes, one incident is counted for each incident of crime. And for violent crimes, a separate incident of crime is recorded for each victim. So the way that crimes are counted in these systems is off. Victimization data and crime underreporting. So, with regards to underreporting, again, just like we talked about, CUCSRs are deemed to be problematic. Um, yeah, they're deemed problematic. 50% of crimes go unreported through these systems. And a 2009 survey found that 88% of sexual assaults went underreported, 77% of household thefts were unreported, and 66% of property thefts were unreported. Right. So, how do we get these unreported crimes? Through victimization surveys, right? Victimization surveys provide insight into unreported crimes. They estimate unrecorded crimes. They explain why victims don't report. They provide information about the crime's impact on victims and identify at-risk populations. Where are they limited? They're not perfect, right? Not all crimes are captured. Certain social groups are more likely to report, and memory bias or false reporting may occur. Um, yeah. The textbook portion for this sets aside 5 types of crimes. So we have crimes against the person, right? Violent crimes. These crimes can induce fear and negatively affect life, like homicide, sexual assault, robbery, and assault. We have homicide. There are 4 types of homicide. There is non-culpable homicide, and then there is culpable homicide that's split into first-degree murder, second, and manslaughter. So it's all defined by Section 222 of the Criminal Code. And homicide is defined by this section as causing the death of another person, right? Non-culpable homicide is referring to, it's not considered a crime, right? Like medical assistance in dying, while culpable homicide includes murder, manslaughter, and infanticide. First-degree murder is planned and deliberate. Second-degree murder is intentional but not premeditated, and manslaughter is unintentional death resulting from unlawful acts or negligence. Sexual assault is another type of crime, right? Is one of the least reported crimes due to victim reluctance and cases being dismissed as unfounded. There are 3 levels, right? Level 1, minor sexual assault and no injuries. Level 2, it involves weapon threats and bodily harm, or bodily harm. And level 3 is aggravated, which can cause serious injury or endanger life. With regards to child sexual abuse, right, cases increased by 74% from 2012 to 2016. Most offenders are trusted figures like teachers, coaches, whatever it may be. Another type of crime, we have property crime. Although violent crimes receive more attention, individuals are statistically more likely to experience property crime. Right? Some common types include breaking and entering, right? Illegally entering a place. Theft of a motor vehicle, right? Theft or attempted theft of a land-based motorized vehicle, right? In 2017, around 85,000 motor vehicle thefts, costing about $1 billion in property losses, happened, and this leads to increased insurance costs. And theft, that's another property crime, right? Taking someone else's property. Theft under 5,000 is the most commonly reported crime generally, and identity theft is a growing problem. Yeah. And then finally, we have crimes of the powerful. This encompasses occupational organizational crimes, often overshadowed by street crimes, right? So we have occupational crime, which is white collar, right, committed by individuals for for personal gain during employment, right, like accountants embezzling funds, employees committing expense account fraud. And then we have state or political crimes, right? This often involves government action, particularly during colonization, including mistreatment of indigenous people. White collar crimes and their punishment, right? White collar crimes, just like we looked at, include financial fraud, corporate crimes, embezzlement, right? Offenders are frequently wealthy, educated, and non-violent, right? So again, just those 5 kinds of crime, 5 types: crimes against a person, homicide, sexual assault, property crimes, and crimes of the powerful. Yeah, other than that, we looked at, CUCSRs. We looked at the definition of terrorism. We looked at some stats for violent and property crimes, right? Yeah.